whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Hello. Thanks for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show, live every weekday starting at noon. And thank you for all of you who are joining in before I'm even here. You're showing me up, and I love it. We do have a very fun show coming up today. I do have a poll up. You'll see it in the comments. I'll explain it in just a moment, so you don't have to actually take it right now. But we do have a great show. I do want to start off by saying click that thumbs up button. Totally helps us out. Woke up to a lot of news this morning, not just the Tom Brady, which we'll play it. I know you guys probably already know. Brock, Purdy, Niners, they have a quarterback problem. You're like, Jimmy's just standing there looking around and being like, you know who's still here? But we'll touch on that briefly. Today is the first day of Black History Month. And so it's actually National Freedom Day, which is different than Juneteenth. It's actually the day that the 13th Amendment was signed. And so we'll touch on that as well. Mr. Beast, you'll remember, what day is it? I think it was Monday we talked about Mr. Beast. Remember, he paid to have 1,000 people get this cataract surgery so they could see. The eye surgeon that he was working with says, you know, most of these people's blindness can be solved with a 10-minute surgery. I was praising him. Many people were praising Mr. Beast, as he's known online. Now he's getting criticized. And so I'll explain the criticism, and then you tell me if they have a point or if this is just a bunch of complainers on social media. In the second part of the show, we will be speaking with someone from the Bay Area Council. Today is also the deadline for California cities and counties to put forth their housing plans. You know, all those fancy schmancy cities and counties, Atherton, all these places are supposed to have some sort of plan on how they're going to build more housing. And it seems like a lot of them are just shrugging about it. So I'll be speaking with Mirante with the Bay Area Council about what this really means. I mean, are cities and counties just kind of calling Governor Newsom's bluff? Or are there really going to be consequences a la the builder's remedy, where builders can just build whatever high density housing they want without needing the city and county's approval? So I don't know if this is kind of just who's going to, you know, like a game of chicken between the state and some of these cities and counties, but we'll talk about that in the second part of the show. All right, so let me get to the poll really quickly, and I'm going to show you an image because this is what started it. I saw this online. It's just a funny way to start the show. I'll touch on this towards the end of the show as well to get the poll results. So this guy posts this thing on Twitter. He says, we as a society need to have a serious conversation about doorbells and how a text message is not an appropriate way to alert someone that you're outside their house. So my question is simple. Are you team doorbell or are you team text? Now, I am a person that walks up to the door most of the time. But if like I'm picking up my kid outside their friend's house and I don't want to get out of the car, nuggets in the back seat, or my kid is, and I'll just text. Be like, yo, I'm here. Come on out, or whatever. I don't believe that I am the type of person that will text somebody to let me in their house. Does that make sense? Like, if I'm planning to go into your house, I will ring the doorbell. But if we're leaving, I may perhaps just text you like, hey, I'm outside, come on out. But then is that rude? Like, why don't you say hi to the family? Is this just another example of how rude we are becoming in the society? So you'll see the poll. And just let me know what you guys think. Okay, I love this. I gotta play this. I gotta show this first. Murphy. LOL at the poll. Oh my God, do not ring my doorbell or knock. Just text me or my stupid dogs will go nuts and try to break down the door to eat you. Not that they could. They're really small, the dorks. I love that, Murphy. And that, I think, is the point, right? It's, what is the ramifications of ringing the damn doorbell? And now with Ring, I don't need you to ring my doorbell. My Ring is going to alert me the minute you start walking up with that stupid chime that everybody has. You know, all the people that have Ring because their phone starts going off. Kay has a good point in Santa Rosa. Being at the door is different than in the car. That is very, very true. It seems the pets are not knocking you, Nugget, but the pets are kind of the big thing here. It's like we have dogs, JR says. Our friends know to text us. But how many of you have sat at home and done this? The doorbell rings and you like look at your partner or your roommate or whoever's in the house and you're like, who the hell is ringing my doorbell? It's odd. You know, who is calling us this hour right now? All right, so I'm going to leave the poll up throughout the show. We'll touch on it again. But I just thought it was really funny because it made me think. I said to myself, what would I rather have people do? Because either way, if they're coming into my house, whether they ring the doorbell or not, Nugget's going to go nuts. He needs to bark at you and then get some love. You must give the dog love. If you ignore him, he will just continue to bother you until you love him. He's just a lover. He is literally all bark. No bite. He's a total chicken ass, but I adore him and I love him. But Kim writes in, my friend who has a 3.5-year-old often tells me to text if she's napping. In most other cases, I knock, maybe not the doorbell. That's interesting. I like that Kim brought up knocking instead. Full disclosure, for a very long time, before we got the Ring, our doorbell didn't work. And so you press it and nothing would happen. The thing inside, the actual bell, had busted. And so we just never fixed it. And so people would just be standing there thinking that the doorbell rang, and it didn't. And they knock. And so that's another issue. Neiman says, I'll tell him to text me when you're here. And Natmit writes, why have a doorbell if we can't ring it? Just asking seriously, not to be a bee. Very good point. Although most houses come with a doorbell. I mean, you might not like it. You know, rip it off the wall. So that could be. It's like, I would prefer you not to ring the doorbell. When I first started doing this show, I had a big sign on my door that says, do not knock, do not ring the doorbell, leave whatever you have on the floor. I don't want to talk to you. Because I didn't want my dog, and I didn't want the sound of everything. I've become way more lax about it. You guys totally understand that I'm at home and things happen. JR adds to the conversation with this. We have had a sign on our porch for years that says no soliciting. It's amazing how many salespeople ring our doorbell and are ignorant to what soliciting means. Duh. I hate that sign, not to knock you, JR, because of that exact reason. I feel like people don't pay any attention to it. And I do still want my Girl Scout cookies. So some of them have clever little ones, like no soliciting unless you're bringing me food, Girl Scout cookies, or giving me a check, right, for $1 million, something like that. But yeah, text is nice. I think we're just really, really used to it. So, answer, let me know. We'll touch on this throughout it. Someone's saying that my microphone is a little low. I'm going to bump myself up just a bit, but you guys let me know because I have no way of knowing. Trevor in Concord. I don't know why I would sound tinny. I sounded the exact same yesterday, but you never know. All right. Oh, and then let's do just a couple more. Liz says we don't need a doorbell. We have a mini dachshund barking at the door before anyone even reaches the door. Oh, wow. Dave, I text, call, ring the doorbell, bang on the windows, honk the horn. You really want people to know that you're there. All right, so let me know about the poll. Okay, before we get into the Brady news that I'm sure many of you already know, how many of you watched Jimmy Kimmel last night? So I was about to go to bed. I was cuddling on the couch with my Minnie, my daughter, and I'm just kind of scrolling through social media, as I often do. And because of, time changes, the Lindell appearance on Jimmy Kimmel that I was teasing yesterday was already up. So I pulled a little bit of the sound. The guy, I'm going to say this. I mean, he really believes it. So here again, just to set this up, Jimmy Kimmel invited Mike Lindell of MyPillow, huge conspiracy theorist, election fraud guy, onto a show, but it can only be in a claw machine. This is literally an image from last night. Mike Lindell on the right, standing in this makeshift claw machine. They had kids playing on it. And here's just a taste of how that
Jimmy Crumble, is that you?
was.
It's me. Well, Mike, first question.
Let's start.
Jimmy Crumble, is that you? It's me. Well, Mike, first question, Mike, is why do you think people don't take you seriously?
Well, I want to tell you this, Jimmy. Remember when we were kids and we questioned these carnival games, whether they were rigged or not?
Yeah, right.
But when we spoke up back then, we didn't get sued, did we?
That was the point. Yeah, I mean, a lot of you are saying in the comments, and let me throw some of them because you guys watched it, that, yeah, it was funny. It was funny. It was awkward at some points. You guys feel me on the awkwardness, right? There was sometimes they couldn't hear each other exactly. They had the other fake Lindell come out that was on Jimmy's show, which was kind of funny. But he really, and Jimmy touched on this during the interview, he buys into this still. He really truly believes that using any sort of computer technology in our elections is going to lead to fraud. He has lost millions of dollars. He has ruined his reputation. And I think that Jimmy Kimmel was absolutely correct when he said, it's obvious that you believe in this. But Jimmy says, I do not believe that Trump, Carrie Lake, any of them, Rudy Giuliani, actually believe this. I think that they're basically sore losers who want to come up with some sort of excuse on why they lost. Let's welcome Kim McAllister to the show. Hello, Kim. So did you watch any of the
I didn't see
Mike
it.
Lindell? Yeah.
So I have to say I agree with Kim Schaffer, who says that he's a good sport. Mike Lindell's a good sport. And I think that's really been the thing about him, is that he's willing to go on these late night shows, even though he's taken to task for some really conspiracy theory, woo-woo kind of thoughts.
Right.
But he's willing to have someone question him on it. And then he doesn't get mad. He doesn't get angry or indignant. He just kind of keeps spouting off the same stuff, but he's at least willing to be congenial about it, which,
But I mean,
he's not an
does it
angry
make him
sufferer.
look, no, he's
just-
not angry.
yeah.
But doesn't it make him look a little crazier? Like you're standing
yes,
in a
but
claw machine.
almost in a weird, like, I don't want to say lovable way, because it's not, but in a way where like you feel more sorry for him than you do angry at him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Neiman's like, he's a nutcase.
Yeah.
He's desperate and loves attention. Lori writes in, honestly was impressed with what a good sport Lindell was and what good humor he had. Almost made me like him again. Used to kind of like Lindell pre-2015, a redemption story. Yeah, he was a drug addict. He created this whole pillow line. And whether you like the pillows or not, I mean, he did create a successful company, and then he hitched his wagon to the crazy train, and he's leading it now. I mean, I don't know his relationship with the former president. Jimmy Kimmel did ask if Trump gave him his permission or blessing to be on the show, and he said he did not talk to the former president about it. But I'm sure that Rudy, Trump, they're all looking at Lindell like, I mean, you're on a whole other level when it comes to this conspiracy.
Really? Because Rudy Giuliani stood up there with his hair dye dripping down.
That's
he
true.
Seems like he was a little in La La Land too,
Yeah,
and I think Kim makes a point. It's like you feel feel sorry for him because he's completely unaware that he's being made fun of and poked fun of.
Do you really think that? I don't know.
Yes.
I think, I mean, he was standing there.
Unaware. He's
if you
such
watch
a
it,
dork, like an
is.
Emotionally unaware dork. That's all I can say. He's really dorky.
If you watched it, he seemed to be getting like really enjoying being in the claw machine and going with it. So
yeah,
I don't know what that means. Does that mean that he's in on it or he's not in on it? You see what I'm saying?
He's fun. He has a fun aspect to his personality. He loves being in the center of attention, right? Which is why I always think of business owners when they include themselves in their commercials.
Right.
That's somebody who's kind of attention seeking, right? So he's got that aspect to his personality where he likes to be in the spotlight, but yet he also has this completely self-unaware part of him that just he doesn't get. He's the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
And you saw that when he was called to the White House on as remember President Trump had former President Trump, had all the business leaders up on the White House lawn. And he was talking about all the business leaders that were helping. And here's all the business leaders that are stepping forward. It may have had something to do with COVID. I don't know what it was. I don't remember. But then Mike Lindell got up there and he gave this emotional, weird speech where it was like, it was cringe. You're like, you're being emotional and weird. Like, this isn't right. So there's something unaware about him, even at the White House, where it's not a joke, right? It's not supposed to be a joke.
I don't know. I feel like he knows, but he doesn't know, like you're saying. But here's an interesting question. Are we being mean? Joe wrote in, seems mean-spirited to have someone on just to laugh at them. I don't think that Jimmy Kimmel thought that he was going to say yes. I mean, it did seem there was a bit of, I can't believe we're doing this, and that you're actually standing in a claw machine. I don't know if all publicity is good publicity. I really, really don't. But, he did. Yeah, Nix writes, and I think he did it for attention, like any troll, perhaps. I think he wants to get his message out. They talked about him running for, RNC chair, the Republican National Committee chair. He lost. I think they said he got 4 votes. Jimmy Kimmel did the rundown. Ronna McDaniel obviously remains the RNC chair. Ronna, I never know how to pronounce her name. But yeah, he felt that it was rigged as well. He says the Rasmussen poll had me winning. And then all of a sudden I wasn't elected because he didn't say it was rigged. He says that they weren't listening to the people.
Yeah.
Oh, John, I was actually thinking about this when Kim was talking. Remember Paul from the Diamond Center in his white Mercedes, or Kai Worthington in his dog Spot? Mike Lindell is a carnival salesman. Yeah. I mean, but a pillow is a pillow is a pillow. It's not like he was selling snake oil. I mean, he was saying it was going to do all these things, I guess, but most pillows say something like that. But let's see.
Lori thinking it's about the money. She says there was a fake possible banner at the bottom of the screen for a while to buy pillows. Maybe he needs the sales.
Well, he has Lindell TV. That's what he was talking about. But I think that when he was in the claw machine on Jimmy Kimmel, they were just throwing up funny things like, can you believe he agreed to do this? This man is actually a CEO of a company. So those banners were fake. But he does have Lindell TV where he's, obviously trying to sell stuff.
Yep.
But Lindell is who he is. Vilma writes, nuts. Yeah. Kathy says, I don't think it's mean-spirited. The pug was willing to do it, and he did so much damage to our democracy. Laugh away. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'll laugh at Lindell. I think that he has damaged our election integrity in this country. He has helped, that conspiracy rally cry that Biden was not legitimately elected president. And, we are where we are. So if a couple laughs at him, I'm fine with it. Absolutely fine with it. Now I know everybody knows the news. I woke up to it as well. But let's play it one more time because I know many of us have seen it. And I'm going to point out one specific thing in this announcement that really stuck with me. But first, of course, here he is.
Good morning, guys. I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring.
Are you?
For good.
Are you sure?
I know the process was a pretty big deal last time. So when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. You only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year. So really thank you guys so much to every single one of you for supporting me, my family, my friends, my teammates, my competitors. I could go on forever. There's too many. Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all.
Oh, he's emotional.
He is, but that last sentence is what stuck with me. I wouldn't change a thing. Not one thing. I feel like there might be one thing you might want to change. And that, of course, is the breakup of your family. Now, obviously, we all know, excuse me, Nugget. Sorry, my dog is just under my feet. He broke up with Gisele. Gisele Bündchen responded to Tom Brady's announcement that this time he's really retiring. She wishes her ex-husband only wonderful things. Wishing you only wonderful things in this new chapter of your life. She wrote in the comments along with a prayers hands emoji. I don't know. I feel like if he could have changed anything, I would have changed the fact that my family was still together. Don't you?
Well, I think it depends. Do you feel like his unretiring was really the catalyst that led to that breakup, or were they going to break up anyway?
Well, we'll never know, right? We
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, she is with her jujitsu instructor and seems to have moved on.
That was fast.
It seems fast, but who knows? So, yeah, could there have been
He's with his
problems?
Instagram model lady too.
Oh, I didn't know that he had a lady. I'm not up on my
Oh,
Tom Brady dating
boy,
news.
does he
Sorry.
ever. He has a
Oh,
lady.
really? Okay. Well,
She looks like Barbie.
well, I mean,
With
he looks like
massive
Ken,
boobs.
so that totally. I mean, now this kind of creates a situation, right? So yesterday I was going off. I said he should just retire because the Niners supposedly were looking into him. But then we got this other news from Brock Purdy. And now Brock Purdy, he is going to apparently have to have the Tommy John surgery, which means he's out for a year. He's not going to be our starting quarterback. It's just not going to happen. He just doesn't have enough time to have the surgery and recuperate and all that. Will he still be on the team? I hope so, but he's definitely not going to be starter if he in fact does get this Tommy John surgery on his elbow. So now Brady is not happening, which I didn't really think, is people always talk. So Brady's out. Brock is out for the time being. Trey Lance, there is some good news there. Apparently, Trey Lance expects to be back in 3 to 4 weeks until he's cleared for practice. So, and he says that he's going to be 100% for OTAs, and he's expected to be the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers as he was supposed to be until, of course, he got injured so early in the season. So, we got Trey Lance, but then there's Jimmy. Are we going to get rid of Jimmy? Do we think that Jimmy's going to stay on the team? I don't know, but we have a quarterback problem. We need to figure it out. We need to rally the team. And I don't know. I mean, it just seems we have a bit of a problem. Now, here was Brock Purdy's. Oh, wait, here's the announcement he made. Or at least the sports reporters were making. Brock Purdy needs Tommy John surgery. Will miss about a year. Return 6 to 9 months is unlikely. The doctor is a former NFL player himself. So I wish Brock Purdy wasn't injured. I wish we would have had a better game. But we're just going to have to see what happens in the next coming, I guess, 6 to 9 months. I mean, if Trey Lance is back and is doing good, you never know. I mean, maybe he'll finally have the season that everybody thought he was going to have. But
All right, here's Tom Brady's girlfriend.
Oh!
She's an Instagram model.
Okay.
Her name is Veronica Rajek. She says regarding his retirement announcement, it's hard to retire from beach days.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, how old is she? Did you say?
I didn't say, but younger than him.
Well, that's for damn sure. I mean, she's gorgeous. I mean, nobody can knock the fact that she's a very good-looking woman. He's a very good-looking man to many people. I wish him the best. It's not that and I've said this before, it's not like I hate Tom Brady. No. I didn't particularly like the way he handled his first retirement and then back into the league last time. So I do think that this is permanent. I do think that he's not coming back because that would be just absolutely ridiculous. Talk about.
Although, wasn't there another NFL player that retired and unretired several times?
I
kept coming back like over and over again. No,
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I think that when you're talking about someone like Tom Brady, who breaks records and is considered the GOAT in the sport, it's one of those things where he still has a lot in him. I have a good friend, my old boss up in Sacramento, huge Tom Brady fan. She did not want him. She posted yesterday even going to the San Francisco 49ers. She just didn't like it. And she says that they seem to have bad luck with quarterbacks, which I couldn't knock her for because I don't think anybody could have predicted the season we would have with our quarterbacks. Although some would also argue we went further than Tom Brady did this year with our quarterback. So there you go. But yeah, I think he's going to say goodbye. He's gonna be a commentator. Doesn't he have like a job already lined up to do
As a
sports
matter of fact,
commentary?
it's a $350 million contract for Fox
Hey.
Sports that had been put on hold the last time he retired. So they'll probably scoop him right up and give him all that cash. Like he
Yeah,
needs it,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. Phil says that Jimmy is gone. But who's gonna want him, Phil? Who's gonna want Jimmy? Which is again another sad thing to say because Jimmy didn't technically do anything wrong. He got injured as well. I do want to go back to something, as we're talking and, we comment on all sorts of breaking news. We touched on Mike Lindell, on Jimmy Kimmel. We're touching on Tom Brady and our thoughts on that. Donald wrote in about the Lindell thing that it makes him think about how we treat each other. Making fun of someone in grade school and high school is considered bullying. What changed when we are adults? Do you think that we're making fun of Mike Lindell, or do you think that he understands that people are going to laugh at him? Donald went on to write, why do we have a right to bully people for fun? I don't understand necessarily why it would be bullying if he puts himself into a situation on a late night show with a comedian in a claw machine, kind of yells that people are going to be laughing and that it's going to be a joke. Am I missing something here, Kim?
I think one could argue, and I'll take the other side of this because I think he put himself out there in the world.
Thank you. Yes.
He put himself out there. He made himself a national a picture of, the Trump administration and the supporters. And this is who a Trump supporter is, right? Kind of a nuts guy. So he did that. However, one could say he's obviously not in a good mental space. He's obviously something's defective there, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's crazy. I'll just out and out say it. So do we then have the responsibility not to poke fun at the crazy? Right? Like we should take him out. Someone should be, like I said yesterday, where's his friends? Someone should take
Maybe he doesn't
him out.
have any, Kim. Maybe he doesn't have any.
Where's the girlfriend who doesn't let you wear red underwear with white pants? That's the one. Who is watching him and saying,
that.
you know what, Dad, you know what, Uncle Lindell, whatever, you're being made fun of here. It's not
I don't think it's a good idea.
We need to, let's take a beat. Let's, get you some help. Let's, make sure that you're not being made fun of. I'm concerned about it. Or maybe someone is, and he just doesn't care and there's nothing to be done. But I think you could make the argument that we are making fun of crazy.
Yeah.
And maybe we should treat it more with, this society doesn't respect mental illness. We treat it as something to look at the, circus clown and not something that we look at as an illness. Would you do that to someone who had cancer? Would you do that to someone who is suffering horribly from a disease? Because obviously he's got something going on upstairs. And so instead of, kind of poking fun at him and having him be, again, the butt of the joke, which he seems happy to be, but it may be because he's not in his right mind.
Right. But I mean, is everybody that believes in the same conspiracy as Mike Lindell mentally ill? Or is it just that Mike Lindell's mentally ill and decides to go on national television?
I don't have the answer.
I mean, it's like I could say the same thing to a bunch of people that I know that believe in this freaking election fraud nonsense. Now I'm not pointing and laughing and going, ha ha. But if that person put themselves on national television, standing in a claw machine, also laughing at the same time, it would be just, all I'm saying, it would be very hard not to laugh. I would not blame everybody in the Jimmy Kimmel audience for laughing. It was a hilarious thing to watch. But I agree, sad at the same time, because again, even Jimmy Kimmel said it himself. He knows this guy really buys into it. And that he even said, he's like, you're committed to it. And I think you should be committed. And I don't think that was a joke. I think that he actually means it.
And maybe he does know. I'll tell you a story about my son. He loves to dance.
Okay.
And on Fridays, they play music at lunchtime. And he's a pretty good dancer.
Nice.
But it's also kind of funny. And so he would dance at lunch on Fridays, and the whole school's looking at him dancing. And some people are clapping, yelling, "Go, Jacob, go, Jacob." And some people are doing it in a facetious way, like making fun
they're
of
laughing
him.
at him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I said, well, when he talks about how much fun it is to dance at lunch, I said, well, do you think some people might be making fun of you when they're yelling, go Jacob, go Jacob? And he said, oh yeah, some people are making fun of me, but most people aren't. Most people are
I
into
love
it.
him.
Some people
I
are
love
making
him.
fun of me. And I said, well, maybe if people are making fun of you, it's not something you want to put yourself out there and do. Like, I
Oh,
don't want you to
interesting.
be the butt of the joke. And he goes, Mom, I know people are going to make fun of me through life, but that's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do.
I love him.
So in this particular instance, I would say kid knows he's being made fun of. He's going to do it anyway. And he goes into it fully self-aware. And
Yeah.
if that's what Mike Lindell is doing, if he's fully self-aware that he's the butt of the joke, then who are we to stop it? Right?
There you go.
He's going to do what he's going to do.
That's an excellent story. Yeah, I adore your son. And, you know, I love that attitude. You know, our sons are very similar in that aspect. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I don't care if other people aren't into it, don't like it, or even going to laugh at me. And that's absolutely amazing. I love Jacob. He is awesome. Okay, we do have that poll up. Oh, let me tell Kim McAllister real quickly. Let's get her take real quick. You have to vote. I saw this on Twitter, Kim. And this gentleman wrote, we as a society need to have a serious conversation about doorbells and how a text message is not an appropriate way to alert someone that you are outside their house. Are you team text or are you team doorbell?
I am both, but I will admit to texting when I roll up. I'll say, just got here.
Okay, and then you go inside the house.
But the person's already opening the door as I walk up because they've received the text. Or if I'm dropping a child off, if maybe I picked up someone's kid from school and I'm not going to the door, I'll say incoming, like child is incoming. You know, just so you know, I've dropped them off, they're here, whatnot. So I do rely on text more than I rely on going up to the door, knocking and
What do you prefer at your house?
If
you're sitting on your couch and the doorbell rings, are you like me? Who the hell is ringing my doorbell? You know?
I always approach the door like, is it a salesperson? Is it one of those magazine people? Like who is it? I do. So I want to know who's coming. I would rather you text me and say, hey, I'm on the way over. Be there in 5 minutes. Great.
Right. So
then I can pick up the laundry off the floor and throw it in the garage so I'm not embarrassed as you walk in and see my mess.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. All right. So there is a poll up. Are you team text? Are you team doorbell? We have tons of comments. We'll get through them throughout the show. Today is the first day of Black History Month. It's also National Freedom Day. It marks the signing of the 13th Amendment, which officially abolished slavery nationwide. Different, of course, than Juneteenth, but still very, very important. We'll touch on that after Kim's news in just a moment. Also, Governor Newsom apparently announced around 11 o'clock some gun safety legislation. We'll get an update on that because the stories keep rolling in. Something needs to be done about that. And then don't forget, on the second part of our show, we will be speaking with someone from the Bay Area Council. Today is also the day when California cities and counties are supposed to have already submitted their plan. Today was the deadline on how and where and how much housing they are going to build by 2030. I believe it's 2030. You're going to be shocked, not shocked, at how many of these cities and counties just shrugged, did not meet the deadline. And so I'll be speaking with Luis Mirante from the Bay Area Council about what this actually means, and is the builder's remedy an actual threat? That's all coming up, but first some news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Well, it is going to cost more for most Americans to buy a home, a car, credit card bills likely going up. The balance is likely to increase. That is because the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates again to bring down inflation. The central bank increasing rates by a 0.25 percentage point today. And Vice President Kamala Harris is at the funeral for Tyree Nichols, and she is mourning with his parents today. Vice President Harris traveled to Memphis to attend Nichols' funeral. The vice president said the violent act that led to his death was not in the pursuit of public safety. The NFL community now reacting to, in a big way, to Tom Brady's announcement that he is retiring from the NFL. The quarterback spent most of his career with the New England Patriots, and the team tweeted, "He is forever a legend." Fellow recent retiree J.J. Walt called Brady the greatest of all time. And former President Trump, here he is again, and he is taking issue again with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, calling him a rhino globalist. Rhino stands for Republican in name only. Trump making the claim about his potential 2024 White House rival on Truth Social. Hackers stole nearly $4 billion worth of cryptocurrency last year. That, according to New York-based company Chainalysis, which put the number at about 3.8 billion. Says October was a particularly brutal month for those in the crypto world. There is a community college in San Diego offering now what one could call a bachelor's degree in a demanding field. San Diego City College will begin taking applications this fall for its new bachelor's degree in cyber defense and analysis, with classes officially starting in the fall of 2024. The first time at a community college's 108-year history that students will be able to get a 4-year degree at a junior college. So that's kind of interesting. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. He really is the greatest of all time in the tax world. Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-STEAL at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
I haven't filed a tax return in years. What should I do?
Not filing a tax return for years isn't a surprisingly common problem. And the number one reason people don't file is just because they didn't have the money in year one, and then year two runs around, and then they say, well, how can I file year two if they didn't file year one and they still don't have the money? And then it becomes a lifestyle, a criminal-like lifestyle. The other reason is somebody depended on somebody, a spouse, a business partner, they're gone, they don't know what to do. The bottom line is we can get all of the records that the IRS and the state has on you. We'll file all the returns that you need to file, no matter how many years it is. And then if you're the typical person and you just don't have the money to pay the taxes, that's okay. There's all kinds of good options for you. In almost all cases, we do everything for you. You don't have to talk to the government, deal with them, have anything to do with them. And don't stick your head in the sand, because the IRS is hiring 87,000 new IRS agents, and you don't want them knocking on your door.
This is not legal advice, and you should consult with your tax attorney or professional. All right, thanks for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. Make sure you weigh in on our poll. We'll get to the results towards the end of today's show. Are you team doorbell or team text? When you arrive at somebody's home, what do you want them to do for you? Today is also the beginning of Black History Month. It is also National Freedom Day. I didn't know that the first day of February was National Freedom Day. We talk about Juneteenth all the time, but this is the day in 1865 that President Lincoln signed the 13th Amendment, abolishing the slavery in the country. Of course, Juneteenth commemorates the day when the slaves actually found out, that many slaves actually found out. And
especially
so
in Texas.
Especially in Texas, exactly. Mm-hmm. So in light of all of this, under the beginning of Black History Month, once again, of course, we have the fatal police beating of Tyree Nichols. And just again, this continuing conversation about race relations, police use of force. This story was sent to me. Anthony Lowe, Southern California man, was killed, fatally shot by police. He was in a wheelchair, and he's a double amputee, and he was fatally shot by police. Now, this was in Huntington Park. The department there said officers were responding to reports of a stabbing allegedly committed by someone in a wheelchair. They encountered Anthony Lowe, who was in a wheelchair. They say the police believed he was the suspect. They attempted to detain him. Now, remember, this man is a double amputee. He is in a wheelchair, okay? They apparently he ignored commands and threatened to advance or throw the knife at officers, although there is no body cam footage because they don't have it that shows it. Witness cameras do not show that. Apparently, he just made arm motions multiple times over his head like he was going to throw a knife. The police then used a taser, multiple tasers, on a double amputee in a wheelchair. And apparently, it failed to subdue the suspect, and then they shot him 10 times. They shot this man, double amputee, in a wheelchair, 10 times.
I guess I don't understand how they could fear for their safety and their lives, because that's usually what they say, right? We feared for our safety.
Right.
We thought he was a threat to us,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
How can a guy with I assume it's no legs,
Yeah, no legs,
in a wheelchair? I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding the situation, and I think the man was even trying to roll away.
Yeah, so he's trying to get
So
away, but still.
How is he a threat to you?
And again,
I don't know. You could probably grab him and just throw him in the back of the police car, right?
yes, that's what I would think. But again, I think this goes back to, and yes, it was a black man, and I think that race does have something to do with it. But again, it goes back to this policing and this training and this idea of, if I feel my life is in danger, I can use certain force, i.e. using a gun on a double amputee in a wheelchair. I mean, it boggles the mind. The use of this type of force on people, it needs to stop. And I've said this before, and I understand policing is a very dangerous job, and one these men and women signed up for willingly. So if like, I would never become a firefighter. Why? I would be deathly afraid of going into a burning building. I don't want to do it. I respect the men and women that do. I personally would not want to put my life in that sort of danger. And it would be every single time I did my job. So if for a police officer to say, well, I felt like my life was in danger and they kind of moved a little quickly, that's part of the job, is that you have to put yourself in that danger all of the time. And maybe not everybody can handle that. Maybe the training isn't there for them to handle that. And that needs to change, because I don't believe that most police officers want to do this, want to be either caught in a scandal or kill someone unjustly. They don't want to mistake a phone for a gun. They don't want to, they don't want their implicit bias to make them afraid just because they encounter somebody.
It's not an easy job. And there are plenty of times where I look at an instance, a story, or the way the story went, where a different choice could have been made. But even if the different choice was made, it still would have been a national incident. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And cops are sometimes faced with choices where there's never going to be a good outcome. Nothing good is going to happen here. But this guy, here's what they say. They say they were investigating a stabbing, and they thought,
so the guy has a knife.
They thought he was the suspect. He ignores commands to drop it or to detain him, threatens to advance or throw the knife at officers. So he's threatening to throw it at
Throw a gun, yeah.
Which, can't you just, is it...
Can't you be far enough away where it's not a threat?
Is it stupid for me to say, like...
But that's what I think is a normal response. Like, it's de-escalation. He has a knife. Okay, he has a knife. He is over there. I am going to make a prediction of how far he can throw said knife and my ability to duck.
Right.
I'm not being sarcastic. I'm being literal here. So I'm going to assess the situation. We have a double amputee in a wheelchair with a knife. I have a gun.
Now, know that this is all happening really fast. So you have to make these decisions super quick, right?
Also part of the job, but yes.
Factor that in, right, whatever. Limited witness footage didn't capture that part. The department said officers deployed 2 separate tasers trying to subdue him, but when that was ineffective, they shot him. He died at the scene. There's a picture of that. Apparently
10 times they shot him. Jesus.
Yeah. He's next to his wheelchair, what have you. Gonna throw that knife at the officers. He did not throw the knife ultimately, but made the motion multiple times over his head like he was gonna do it, right? So they fired, again, you said 10 rounds, hit him in the torso. They don't use body cameras in Huntington Beach.
Yeah, so we don't have...
yeah.
But then obviously there were witnesses. It was like the middle of the afternoon or something, right? I think it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Look, Nick, I understand your thinking behind this. Yes, someone in a wheelchair can pose a threat. Yes, a knife, if you are stabbing someone over and over again, yes, is a threat. Yes. But let's look at the situation for what this situation is.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about someone who is surrounded by police officers. He can't move as quickly, I would assume, and that's an assumption, as someone with 2 legs, which I'm saying these officers had.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating that there wasn't another way that they could have de-escalated the situation that did not require. And you know what? Even the use of tasers. I mean, we're again dealing with someone with a knife. If he had a gun, absolutely different story. And I'll give you that.
The Huntington Police Department is going to pay this guy's family
a
bunch of money.
Oh, absolutely.
Bunch of money.
Absolutely.
He was apparently, according to his family and video, he was trying to hobble away from them. So how do you say that's a threat? If the person's trying to get away from you, they're not threatening your life. Now, you may be angry that they're not complying with your commands.
Yeah.
You may be upset that they're trying to get away from you because you're trying to arrest them or investigate a stabbing. But does that rise to the level of
no, not in my opinion.
Force?
And then again, what is the definition of a threat? I mean, that's a really that's something I want answered by police officers. What do you consider a threat? If I don't listen to you, does that automatically make me a threat, or am I just not listening to you? Am I acting like someone that's either under the influence or angry or doesn't want to listen to you? I mean, you have to encounter that every day as a police officer, people that just don't want to see your face or interact with you. But that does not give you justification to use a certain level of force. It just doesn't.
So there's an activist in Los Angeles who's speaking about this case, and see if you agree with this. I completely disagree with what she has to say. I think this is way off base, although I can understand the anger. She says, her name is Sylvester Annie, and she says this is a reminder that officers can create danger instead of protecting people. Quote, "The way they are trained to do the job is kill people. This is not about safety. This man was a double amputee, but they felt the need to shoot him. They didn't do that because they had to. They did that because they didn't care about his life, and Anthony should still be alive." Do you think the way they're trained to do the job is to kill people, that their job is not about safety, but danger?
I think that I think that when they pull the gun out, it's center mass. You don't shoot to injure somebody. You shoot to take them down. They're not trained to take. I love the movies. You know, you could have hit him in the leg. Police officers are trained to hit the body, right? That is where
neutralize the threat.
And neutralize. I mean, that's a term for kill them.
Yeah.
And so now, do I think that every officer, when they pull out their gun, wants to kill somebody? No. Do I think that they're trained to shoot the body, which honestly would lead to most likely severe injury or death? Yes. Do I think that, I don't know. I can't speak for officers, obviously. Do I think that they should have looked at a double amputee in a wheelchair that had a knife and not a gun as a less of a threat? Yeah, I do. I think that they could have handled it completely differently. And that's the frustrating part when we have these conversations about police use of force. We're all Monday morning quarterbacking, right? Oh, you should have done this. You should have done that. And I'll give you that, right? It's easy to sit here in my chair in the safety of my home and say, oh, you should have done this and that when I wasn't out there. But story after story after story, you would think that police officers and departments would be like, okay, all right, we understand Monday morning quarterbacking, but obviously our knee-jerk reactions or our initial reactions to certain situations are not always correct. And we're losing people that we should be protecting. We're losing people and people are dying unnecessarily. And we have to change that because we don't want to be part of the problem, right? We don't want to be part of the problem.
Well said.
On that note, the Governor Newsom has come out and says he wants to limit where people can carry concealed weapons. This, of course, following the multiple mass shootings that we've been seeing just last month alone. So the legislation would ban people from carrying concealed guns to churches, public libraries, zoos, amusement parks, playgrounds, banks, privately owned businesses that are open to the public. If you have a sign on your business, though, that says concealed guns are allowed, then, of course, you can allow them there, which I actually like that part. Let me know if I'm going to be walking into a business in which people may be armed. I like that. I like that part. What do you think? You think this is going to do anything, Kim? Because I don't know. I just feel like this is us again attempting to do something that on one hand, yes, great, fine, dandy, will not in any sense of the word reduce the accessibility of weapons in this state or in this nation.
I think it says something. I think a lot more people are going to be walking around armed.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Even if they can't go into places?
Yes, I do. I think they will be. I think there are a lot more people will be walking around with concealed weapons on their bodies.
Yeah.
There are people that have just been waiting for this
because they just want to like test the law or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand people saying I have a right if I go through the training and all those sorts of things, and I pass the background check and I pass the training and all the rules, I should be able to carry a concealed weapon. So on that, okay, fine. Right. I mean, you're allowed to have it if you go through the trainings. I think there needs to be more. I think it needs to be yearly. I think it needs to be you are owning a weapon that can kill people. We need to know every single year if you're in your right mind. But at the same time, the problem is one, yes, the gun and how it can kill people and how quickly it can kill people. It's also the accessibility. This doesn't remove guns from the streets. This doesn't take guns out of homes. It's not doing that. So when someone does have a mental break and they look around and they're like, what can I use? Oh, look, here's one of probably several guns that people have in their homes that I can use. And so for that instance, I just don't think that it's going to do that much. I don't know what will, in all honesty, except we just try to stop glamorizing gun ownership, that we start bringing in responsible gun owners as being the face of real legislation that's going to change people's minds, i.e. obviously red flag laws that we talk about a lot on this show, and constant training, locking it up, and severe penalties. Just because a gun owner is penalized or punished or has their gun taken away doesn't mean they're coming for everyone's guns. Responsible gun owners, in my opinion, should want strong laws so that they are not lumped in with irresponsible gun owners that leave their guns lying around. I like the idea of needing insurance. That way you pay for insurance, you damn well better lock that thing up away from your ammunition and everything else, because you don't want to be responsible if it is used in a way in which it's not supposed to be used.
I have a swimming pool at my house. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
It's not really a nice pool. It was here at the house when I bought it.
Right.
It's a pool that was put in the 80s or 90s, so it's old now and needs some work. But nonetheless, I don't want to make it seem like this place is Shangri-La or anything. But this pool is the reason we carry extra insurance.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, because you need it.
You need extra insurance. You need, you hear stories all the time. And we also lock our gates because you don't want some 4-year-old neighbor kid to somehow wander into your backyard. They'd have to get through 3 locked gates in order to get to the pool, including a large pool gate. So we've taken extra steps to make sure that no one falls in that doesn't mean to go in. Right.
Exactly.
And carry extra insurance so that if something bad happens, if you have a pool party and someone hits their head, or, some kids running along the side of the pool, even though you said don't run, and some parent decides to sue you, you want to be covered. But it's the same thing as that. If you have something in your possession that has the ability to hurt someone that, even in an accidental way, could lead to somehow something bad happening.
Yeah.
Carry extra insurance on that.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And the point is if you want to own a gun, that's a personal decision, but you should not want anything bad to happen with it. You don't want your kid getting a hold of it. You don't want any of those sorts of things. So you have to be responsible. Unfortunately, no matter the laws that we have here, it still happens. and it sucks, and it's tragic in so many instances. What I had a laundry list: a 15-year-old girl injured in Vallejo after a shooting near a high school.
Yep.
CHP locks down a Oakland building that houses Caltrans after a man spotted with a gun. I mean, gun stories are constant, and it's exhausting. And I don't know if some of you think that we should just be throwing up our hands and being like, yeah, well, we have guns, so there's nothing we can do about it. It sucks. And I don't know what the answer is. I just wish that those that are responsible gun owners would be leading the charge. That's it. I really do. Okay, so coming up in the second part of the show, we're going to switch gears a bit. So today is February 1st. And yes, it's the start of Black History Month, like we mentioned. It's, it's a day where we remember, obviously, the signing of the amendment, the 13th Amendment that got rid of slavery. But here at home, it's also another big day when it comes to housing. So today was the day when cities and counties were supposed to have a plan. They were supposed to have details. They were supposed to submit these plans in order to provide more housing for the people that want to live in their cities and counties. According to the Bay Area Council, out of the roughly 110 cities and counties in the Bay Area, about 65 have not submitted a housing element plan as of this morning. Now, the consequence of this should be huge. It's something called the builder's remedy, which is basically it's up to the builders where they build housing, how many units, how dense it is, everything. Be damned what the city and counties want, what the people there want. But if 65 cities and counties in the Bay Area just basically shrugged their shoulders at this deadline, is the builder's remedy really that big of a threat? Coming up after Kim's news, we're going to be joined by Louis Mirante, who is the Vice President of Public Policy and Housing at the Bay Area Council. And we'll be talking about this deadline and kind of housing deadlines in general. Why I want his take on why so many cities and counties are just, in my opinion, shrugging their shoulders at this deadline. And I worry that it's because the builder's remedy threat isn't really a threat at all. So that's coming up after Kim's news. Please click that thumbs up button in support of the show. We have a bunch of people that we want to thank. Should I do it now? Let's do it now. We have a couple of minutes before the top. The super chat is live. That's a way for you to donate to our show. Show us some love in the chats. I'll read your comments, of course. RJ Dunn started us off and a good afternoon with $20. Thank you, RJ. Mike also coming in with $10. I absolutely love it. And then, I mean, he's not exclusive founding sponsor of Steve Moskowitz, but Andreas has become quite the celebrity with his donation and his generosity and his stories. And again, our prayers continue for your mom's full recovery, because Andreas not only gave us $20 and a Nikki time again, but also $20. And I love the fact that Andreas feels me with the $20 donation, sleeping on hospital chairs. It's no fun, but it's the one place we want to be, right, Andreas, when someone in our family is sick. And then another $20 and a good day from Andreas. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you to everybody that donates. You can also donate to our Patreon. You can find our Patreon on our website, thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. You can become a Medorable. You can become a monthly subscriber, get early access to things. Our PayPal is up as well at thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. That's the end of begging for money, but I always appreciate everybody's love and support, because we definitely need it to keep the lights on. All right. We'll talk housing after Kim's news on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Well, Vice President Kamala Harris and the Reverend Al Sharpton, both at the services today for Tyree Nichols, and they are calling for the passage of a police reform bill. The pair spoke at the funeral of Tyree Nichols in Memphis. Sharpton said the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act would force officers to think twice before using force. Nichols died 3 days after being beaten by 5 Memphis police officers. Vice President Harris said President Biden will sign the bill into law if Congress passes it. The legislation was first introduced in the House of Representatives in February of 2021. Governor Gavin Newsom is ending some state of emergency declarations dating as far back as 6 years in California. 26 state of emergency declarations are open right now in California. The governor is ending specific emergencies for more than a dozen wildfires and other incidents like the desert earthquake over the 4th of July in 2019, the Orange County pipeline spill in 2021, the Oroville Dam collapse in February of 2017. He's also ending statewide emergencies like the fire, weather, and forest conditions declaration from 2019 and the monkeypox declaration from last year. The pandemic state of emergency for COVID will expire at the end of the month here in California, nearly 3 years to the day of the first stay-at-home order. Maybe you remember this story. Remember, he threw her under the bus. This is former San Diego Congressman Duncan Hunter. He and his wife are now officially divorced. 3 years after Hunter resigned from Congress in the wake of an investigation that charged the family with using more than $200,000 in campaign money for personal expenses, the two have agreed to a divorce settlement. The Times of San Diego says the settlement avoids a divorce trial for Duncan Hunter and his now ex-wife Margaret, who also served as his campaign manager during the period under investigation. Hunter at one point blamed his wife for the campaign finance mistakes, and she charged him with having 5 different affairs. Both were pardoned for the campaign finance crimes by former President Trump. That was in December of 2020. And ADP is out now with a jobs report. This is for January. The payroll processing firm says just about 106,000 jobs were added. That is lower than the 190,000 that economists were looking for. Declines were attributed to bad weather. I don't have a picture for this one, but I will tell you there's something called slap fighting that is going to make a pay-per-view debut in March.
No.
According to Sports Illustrated, UFC President Dana White's Power Slap will
I've
hold its
seen this.
first ever pay-per-view event March 11th in Las Vegas. You've seen the Power Slap?
Okay, I don't know if it's called the Power Slap. Okay, I saw this one video, and it was actually 2 women, but they were buff. They were really strong, right? And you just stand there. I'm thinking that this is what it is. I could be wrong. And you just have to stand there, and they smack the S out of you as hard as they can. And the one video that I saw, the one woman did it. I mean, it looks like it hurts, right? Obviously.
Oh my God.
And she just stood there, and then she wound up and she knocked this woman into like next year. I swear it was insane. My husband and his dumb friends back in the day, they would play the slappy game and they would just smack each other. And I told him, like, if any of you lay a hand on me, I will beat you to a pulp. Yeah, I have no idea. I think that we've run out of ideas on entertainment because power slapping. I mean,
yeah, power
There's
slap.
some people I would love to power slap, but I wouldn't want to be slapped back.
Yeah.
People will pay it though. I'm telling you, people will pay it.
So apparently they're facing a little backlash over this one.
I would say so.
It debuted on TBS after the video surfacing of Dana White, who is the UFC president, slapping his wife on New Year's Eve.
Oh,
that's not going to work. Power Slap, Road to the Title, saw its audience grow from week 1 to week 2. Its 3rd episode set to air on TBS Wednesday. The final episode of Power Slap's 8-episode deal with TBS will air March 8th ahead of the pay-per-view event. So apparently
I think I'm going to have to watch it. And now I have to watch it for research purposes, Kim. I'm going to have to watch people slap each other for entertainment. I don't know.
I'm telling you.
And
the father of Peeps has passed away at the age of 98. A man who helped mass produce the Peep marshmallow Candies has died. Leaders at the Pennsylvania-based candy-making company Just Born say Ira Bob Bourne died Sunday at the age of 98. He helped create the automated process to make the Peep. So, say goodbye to him. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you for joining us for the second half of the Nikki Medoro Show. I really appreciate all of you joining us every single day. Now, we talk a lot about housing on this show. We talk about, where we're going to put housing, what kind of housing, shelter, temporary housing, all sorts of housing. And when we talk about housing, one of the questions is, should people that live in rich areas kind of be exempt from it? Like, for instance, on Monday, we were talking about Steph and Aisha Curry, right, in Atherton, and how they wrote their mayor, and they're saying, we really don't want these townhomes. They're going to look into my property. They're going to have landscaping, all sorts of things. And some people are saying that's valid. They're celebrities. They want to be protected. Others are saying, every single city and county should be doing their fair share on building more housing in the state of California. We are a very popular state to live in, and it's expensive to live here. And it's not like we're paying minimum wage of $50 an hour. And people need a place to live, or they end up in an encampment in front of your business, which we also don't want to see. Well, there was a deadline set. And today is the deadline of cities and counties to come up with some sort of housing element plan of where and how much housing they were going to build. Well, let's just see how well these cities and counties did. Joining us now is Luis Mirante with the Bay Area Council. He's Vice President of Public Policy and Housing. Is it Louis or Luis? I never get it right.
Louis, but whatever gets my attention.
Hi, Louis.
Oh, there you go, Louis. Okay, Louis, thank you so much for coming on the show. So, Louis, let's first start off with today. I mean, I would think that setting a deadline, giving cities and counties time to plan is a perfect gift. Like, look, we have a housing problem. Everyone agrees. So it's February 1st. How are we doing as a state with these cities and counties coming up with a plan?
Well, not too well, Nikki. Thanks for covering this issue. In the Bay Area, the Bay Area's local governments had a due date of today to get their housing plans to the state of California. And of about 110 jurisdictions in the Bay Area, it seems that 65 have not sent in one that is substantially compliant. Some cities are kind of scrambling. Brisbane, for example, is meeting tomorrow to try to get a plan in. But even there, the plans that folks are sending to the state probably won't cut the mustard.
Why? What do you mean by that? What are these plans? What should they include? What kind of details? And what do you mean if they don't cut the mustard, as they say?
Sure. So the state has pretty aggressive home building goals for the region. We build about 22,000 homes per year. The state wants us to increase that to about 55,000, more than doubling the amount of production, and with a real focus on affordable housing. So as a part of trying to meet those numbers, local governments have to, as you mentioned, put together housing elements, which are supposed to be the sort of local government constitution, so to speak, that really enshrines the values around housing and affordable housing, and then empowers other ordinances like zoning ordinances or streamlining measures or funding measures. The housing elements were due to the state today, and the specific deadline was for cities to adopt substantially compliant housing elements that are, substantially compliant with all the different rules that the state has. The biggest one is that local governments affirmatively further fair housing, which is a general requirement that we're increasing the production of affordable housing in places that have great opportunity for the people who live in those homes. So places close to jobs, places close to really good schools, places with really good quality of life and healthy outcomes. In a lot of cities, they have pretty recalcitrant NIMBY populations in those areas that don't want to see the affordable housing that the state does.
I love that you mentioned kind of the NIMBYs, and I feel like there's NIMBYs in every city and county, right? Unless you're in a city and county that's up and coming and has room and all those sorts of things. With obviously you've had conversations with people in housing, with cities and counties. What is the biggest issue in getting through to the NIMBYs to turn them into YIMBYs, or someone that would actually, start understanding that we have to build?
Right.
Being a city or county that says no to it is not feasible anymore.
It's tough. I do think there has been a lot of work done around the state to put people from the NIMBY camp to the YIMBY camp. And I really admire that work. But I think what's probably more important from a political standpoint is just organizing the normal people who stand on the sidelines of these conversations to get involved on the yes side. Because the people who are really energized to participate in these conversations are either people like myself, who are professional housing advocates, or they're deeply involved in trying to stop housing because it is like a fearful experience for them. They're emotionally really responsive to this. Most people who struggle with housing costs in the Bay Area don't have the time to get involved in their local housing plans. And I don't think they should have to be able to afford the Bay Area. But when we vote in elections, we should be choosing candidates who vote with housing. And we've actually seen a lot of success, I want to say, in the organizing space around this. I want to highlight one city that I think did really well in this process, and that was Emeryville.
Oh, okay. What they do?
Emeryville has a great city council that's really just committed to building as much housing as possible. The state has set these minimum goals for local governments, and Emeryville just said, you know what, we're not going to spend the time trying to figure out how to meet the state's goals. We're just going to blow past the state's goals and adopt really broad, sweeping policies to promote affordable housing production. And we're not going to spend time and energy trying to hit a bullseye. We're just going to blow way past that. And it was one of the few, I think it was one of the only maybe 3 or 4 jurisdictions I can think of that the state approved for a first draft. Most of the time, the state has to go back and forth with you. But Emeryville shows both in the politics and the policy that when normal people get involved on the side of being pro-housing, we can make really great stuff happen.
And what happened in Emeryville? I mean, did everything just collapse? And because that's the fear people have. It's like, oh my God, the quality of life is terrible. I mean, these are fears. Did they run out of water? And I know it's a state issue, but there are just so many excuses that I consider of why we can't build more housing, and yet the problem's not going to go away.
Yeah, no, sky is sunny in Emeryville today.
Exactly.
Beautiful town. No, I mean, and really, I think we need to start thinking less parochially about this issue. So many of us know family or friends who've had to move out of the area because of high housing costs. And that's tragic. We really should think about the opportunity to put new homes in our community as a way of ensuring that our children, our friends, our grandchildren, our cousins are all going to be able to afford the Bay Area on working class salaries.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Does it? I know we have a housing problem here in the Bay Area, and during the pandemic, more people became homeless than ever before. But I wonder how much of it is a lack of housing and how much of it is that it's just so expensive. No matter if you do find a house, you just can't afford to move in. That we're outpacing with when you look at home costs, and the homes that are being built tagged as affordable now, are they going to be unaffordable in the next 10 years?
Well, it's actually even a question of whether they're affordable today. But I want to get to your first question because I think it's a really important one. There's a popular misconception based on the homelessness that most people see or experience on a daily basis, that homelessness in places like the Bay Area is particularly driven by things like mental health or substance abuse. Mm-hmm. And while those are factors, I mean, I imagine for myself how much I would struggle with mental health issues if I were homeless. But while those are factors, they don't explain in any significant degree why the Bay Area has such bad homelessness. The biggest driving variable is absolutely that high cost of housing. Because you look at a place like West Virginia, which has much higher rates of substance abuse, much higher rates of mental health issues, and much higher rates of endemic poverty. There just aren't great jobs there. They have about 1/5 of the homelessness that we do. The only main way to explain that is the Bay Area just has housing costs that are so high.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that we have housing costs that are so high, especially in the market rate place, the sort of market rate housing, the stuff you'd find on Craigslist or whatever, means that that the median incomes for places like San Francisco have skyrocketed because there are only wealthy people who are left in these places.
Exactly.
Now, the federal government, in setting income limits for affordable housing, looks at area median income. So in San Francisco, where area median income is now very high, you are technically low income by the federal government's definition if you're a family of four that makes $144,000 or less. That's crazy.
Wow, that is I mean, on one hand, I feel like it encompasses a lot of people, but again, it's so expensive here, and they're not building enough affordable housing. So, Louis, the builder's remedy threat.
Sure.
Explain what the builder's remedy is in relation to this housing element plan deadline.
Totally. So the builder's remedy is a penalty, although I hesitate to use that word, to cities that don't have substantially compliant housing elements by the due date. The builder's remedy allows a developer to go into a city and build affordable housing, mixed income housing on a site. They have to follow all of the rules except for zoning. Zoning is the regulation that most local governments have across the country that says whether you can build a multifamily building here or an office building there or a single family home there. The reason that many of our neighborhoods are single family home only is because the zoning code says that you can only build single family homes in those areas. And the builder's remedy says that local governments cannot deny a project because it's inconsistent with the zoning, meaning that you as a developer could go into a nice community, Hillsborough, for example, buy up one of those really big lots with a single family home on it and build an apartment building with affordable housing there. Now, I hesitated earlier to say that's a penalty because while the city council of Hillsborough might not like that to happen, I would. I think that's a great outcome for the people of California that we're building more affordable housing in these high opportunity places close to jobs and close to good schools.
Yeah. But is it going to happen? I mean, it seems if all these cities and counties are shrugging, they think that they're not going to be penalized in this way.
Sure.
And why would they think that?
Well, I've likened these folks to the sort of slacker students who show up to class late to realize there's a test that day, which I sort of reflected on later as particularly choice words because I was that student in high school. So I can't,
Same.
But the fact of the matter is that no project in California, and I should say the Bay Area Council was the originator of the idea for the builder's remedy back when it was adopted into the law in 1990. And since then, it has not been used to entitle a project. However, the due date for these elements were in Southern California was in October. And many, like the Bay Area, many local governments in Southern California missed their deadline. And since then, about 20,000 homes have been applied for through the builder's remedy and are in some form of discussion or litigation with local governments down there. In fact, one developer proposes to more than triple the total number of affordable housing that's been built in the city of Santa Monica in the last 20 years in basically one fell swoop.
Wow.
So this really does, I think, have, if that immediate pass is any precedent, this does have the opportunity, I think, to build some real housing in the Bay Area. And we know from cities like San Francisco, which was originally planning to miss this deadline as well, that learning of the threat of the builder's remedy from housing advocates really compelled them to action. And they got their act together to submit an element this week, actually, to make sure that they were in front of that deadline.
We have a question from our viewers. Joe writes, how likely is it for a builder to want to build affordable housing instead of market rate? Which I think is an interesting question. I mean, if I can make more on the regular market versus affordable housing, why would I want to build it?
Totally. It's a great question. There are a couple, I think there are a couple of responses to this, but the way that the law is written in the builder's remedy is that to be eligible for the builder's remedy, you have to build a building that is at least 20% low income. So you have to build some sort of a mixed income community. But I'll say, in general, housing is incredibly expensive to build in the Bay Area. I like to throw this stat out because I think it just really illustrates the point. We work closely with the UC Berkeley's Turner Center for Housing Innovation. They do all sorts of reports and stuff on housing. And they find that in San Francisco, the impact fees, which are the fees that are put on housing, and that's only one subset of the types of fees that local governments impose on housing projects, but the impact fees alone on your average home are going to be north of $100,000. And those fees are directly passed on to prospective home buyers and tenants. In Fremont, the full fee load can be more than the total price for a house in the rest of the United States on average. So while developers can build and sell homes in Texas in an affordable way, government policy in California assures that they cannot here, which is, I think, something we should change.
What do you say to people who think, you know what? If you want to live near the beach in Santa Monica, if you want to do that, you should pay more. And I should not have to build affordable housing or live next to affordable housing units. I mean, there is that belief that, you pay more for city views, beach views, things like that.
Well, I think that's genuinely unneighborly, and I don't want to get into a moral fight here, but I sort of am not the person who's going to really invest my time in trying to convince that person they're wrong, because it's sort of self-evident that they are. However, I will say I don't think there's a real problem here, because if you're, for example, and thank you for covering the Steph story. I thought he's obviously a hero to the region but it's
a little awkward for him to be a NIMBY. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And he actually has a solution right in front of him. If he doesn't want folks to build affordable housing in his backyard, he can simply buy that home. That's how people have solved this problem throughout history. It's really a unique situation where people sort of band together and collectively say no new homes here. I just don't think that's a legitimate purpose for the government to exclude. I think we have a moral responsibility to both our present and our future to make these the types of communities that people can afford to live in. And while they're nice, that doesn't mean they have to be terribly expensive.
Yeah, I agree. So now, so we've missed the deadline. The builder's remedy is a threat. San Francisco, some cities and counties may be hurrying to get something done. But how quickly do we even know that the builder's remedy will begin? Or is it up to the builders themselves to be like, cha-ching, I'm going to start building as soon as I can?
The builder's remedy is the first of 3 types of penalties that the state can impose, and it's the first because it's automatic. The statute that empowers the builder's remedy says if a city doesn't have a valid housing element, the builder's remedy just applies. So developers could be walking into planning departments today to try to get projects permitted under the builder's remedy. And I think what's important, and I know this is a little bit technical, but what's important to note about this is that if a local government comes into compliance with housing element law later, as I expect most will over the next 6 months, a developer can what's called vest their rights under a law that we supported from State Senator Nancy Skinner of Berkeley. It allows folks to basically say, oh, okay, I'm applying for this project, and so the rules on my project can't change. And so even if the city comes into compliance later, they're evaluated under the rules that were in place when they applied for that project.
It just seems to me that if I was the mayor, supervisor, of a city or a county that has not come into compliance yet, has not submitted a housing element, I would be more afraid of the builder's remedy than the backlash from the community. How much does politics play a role in this, and just kind of bending to the will of NIMBYs versus understanding there's a problem that needs to be solved?
It's a huge one. I've kind of picked on Hillsborough recently a little bit because Hillsborough actually had a plan that they were planning to submit to the state, and they backed down under community pressure. And I'm sort of surprised by that, because I agree with you that the builder's remedy could be used as a sort of helpful threat. If you're in a city with a large NIMBY constituency, you could say, hey, we have to submit this good plan, or the penalty, so to speak, is going to be worse.
Right.
But, I guess cooler heads didn't prevail in the situation.
Well, hopefully they get the message, Louis, because I would much rather work together on a plan instead of letting, obviously, somebody else take control of it. I love having you on the show. I'd love to have you back on. We talk about housing a lot. Louis Mirante with the Bay Area Council, talking about the deadline that many cities and counties missed today on coming up with a housing element plan. Louis, thank you so much for being on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, get it together, people, right? We have to build housing. We can argue and bitch and moan so much about it, but it has to be built. And I like the idea of this quote unquote threat, which is a good threat. We'd get more housing, but I would much rather especially in the community in which I live, to be part of the process, right?
Right.
Okay, let's find the right spots for this instead of leaving it up
Mm-hmm.
to, let's just say, a builder looking at prime piece of real estate and being like, I can make buku bucks on that, and having it done that way. So yeah, I hope that he's right, that within the next 6 months or so that we actually have some plans that are drawn up. I hope. Now, one thing that I want to add before we do Kim's news, and we have some time before the bottom of the hour. When we're talking about housing, and Louis Mirante with the Bay Area group, Bay Area Council, touched on this, is people are not paid enough, right? And they're having to, either live in their cars, they're losing their jobs. Kim, you were talking about the rising rate hikes again, and what that may do for some businesses, looking at whether or not they're going to be keeping employees. Is there this impeding recession? The layoffs that we've been seeing, all of those are part and parcel.
A lot of people, they say, what do they say? We're all a paycheck away from disaster.
Exactly.
You have credit card rates rise, and you keep people in this debt cycle so that they can't pay anything off, because interest rates keep rising, and all they can do is to stay afloat is pay the interest off on their credit cards, and they don't know how to get out of it. And then you raise their rent, or somebody loses a job in the house, and you got even more homeless people. I don't know how we help people, but I don't think we can afford for anyone else to lose their roof. Right?
Exactly. And I mean, and we were talking yesterday, what was it? Workday, I think yesterday was announcing a bunch of layoffs. Microsoft, I mean, it's so many people and so many companies that are getting these or announcing these layoffs. If you are getting a pink slip, I don't know if you guys saw this headline, or if you've even heard of this app. Have you heard of the app called Blind? Okay. It's similar, but not exactly like LinkedIn. So apparently, in the week before Microsoft publicly announced plans to cut 10,000 jobs, a huge number of people started hopping on, not LinkedIn, but Blind. They signed up for accounts, which is an anonymous network, okay, in the first 2 weeks of January. And they're using the service to speculate on whether or not layoffs are coming, and to find jobs if they have been laid off. So apparently, Blind is described as an information sharing forum for verified professionals. You can only log in with your company's email address. So for instance, if you work for Google, you have to log in with an actual Google email address. Okay. And then you get
I don't like that, because then you could get in trouble, right? Like, what if you work?
Well, it's anonymous. It's anonymous. So I don't think your name, but you're right. I mean, anonymous, who knows?
No.
But they're saying that people are using it all the time to share all sorts of things. So for instance, according to CNN Business, one recent post that received almost 100,000 views was an essay from a person claiming to be a current Amazon worker, reflecting on lessons he learned after being laid off from Uber during the early days of the pandemic. Other posts share tips on how to navigate being laid off. There's job hunting tips for people who are let go in the current climate. Also, there's some tips on which companies may actually be hiring. Now, Blind isn't new. Apparently, it was founded by a South Korean tech worker, or tech workers, in 2013. It launched in the US in 2014. And it's basically a place where anonymously, as much as you believe it, you could learn about how much you're being paid, who's getting laid off, and all sorts of things. So just tips, tricks that we're trying to help people out as they may be facing the unemployment line, because I can only imagine, and I know that the Fed is hoping that these interest rate hikes are going to tamp down the recession, but it's also making a lot of these big tech companies look around and wonder how much of the quote unquote fat they can cut, right? I mean, if you have a lot of employees, whether it's because you overhired or something else, more people are going to face the unemployment line. And for an area like the Bay Area that is so tech job heavy, I fear what's going to happen, and the ripple effect is going to have as we don't build enough housing, and as the housing becomes even more unaffordable for so many people. So Blind is the app. I also, before we go to Kim's news, I saw this one during the interview, and somebody had posted it, and I wanted to address it. Okay, here we go. Anonymous. It's kind of annoying, even though I'm subscribed. Nikki never appears on my YouTube homepage. Does subscribing and tuning in for weeks of shows and not teach the algorithm? I like Nikki's show. I love you, Anonymous. Thank you for posing this very question. So I subscribe to, let's say, the Mark Thompson Show, right?
Yeah.
So when I go to youtube.com, it doesn't necessarily pop up because other people in my house use YouTube. So I'm like, gaming videos, my son likes to watch gaming videos. Those always pop up because sometimes it's what you watch the most of for the longest amount of time. So I hit the subscription button, and usually that's where I find Mark Thompson's show. So there should be a button that says subscriptions, like where you subscribe.
Yeah.
And that's what Eric was also saying. I see it up top when I go to subscriptions. And Anonymous wrote back on the left-hand side, she's at the top when live, but I'm used to seeing Mark's show right there. Front and center. I don't know why.
That doesn't happen to me. Sometimes I'll search for both shows, and I'll have to sift through either smaller segments that have been pulled out or older shows in order to get to the new one. I will say it.
My show, not Mark's show?
Both.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
My workaround for it is to go to the website, theNikkiMedoroShow.com, theMarkThompsonShow.com. If you go to the website and you scroll down, the show that's happening now, the recorded version, when we're done, will automatically pop up on YouTube. That recorded version is automatically on the NikkiMedoroShow.com. So if I just go to the website and click on it, I got it.
And it'll take you to the live version or only the recorded one?
I think it'll take me to the recorded one, if that's what I'm looking for.
Right, but I think Anonymous wants to be with us live so he can part of the live chat and everything like that.
What about the bell? Clicking on the bell.
That's what I was going to say next. So there's a bell that you should see if you've subscribed, and it should alert you. So make sure that you click the bell, Anonymous and everybody else, to make sure that you're notified when my show starts. You can also follow me. I put out the alert when I create every day's show. And I know it goes out on Facebook, so I'm assuming it also goes out on YouTube as well if you get the alerts. Vilma has another great idea. Make sure everybody subscribes, even if they don't watch the show every day, family and friends. I completely agree with that as well. So yeah, I try to send out alerts as much as possible. I should send it out on Twitter as well, except Twitter has changed my feed immensely. So Roberto says it'll take you to the live show once it begins, and Stars gets the notification, so that's good. JR says subscribe button will show all new content for subscribe programs. The bell will alert you to new content being posted, including live, which is good because my mom, I love my mom. I adore her. But I'll go to her house and she'll be like, oh, you were talking about X, Y, and Z. I go, that wasn't today. What show were you watching? So she was probably like watching a recorded show, which I've seen other people do as well.
Right.
Any way you do it, I love it. But definitely, I think the bell and having me in your subscriptions, which means you are subscribing to the show, like, share, subscribe, that's the important thing. Click the thumbs up. And hopefully, Anonymous, your algorithm learns that this is where the cool kids hang out. And so you need to be here every day starting at noon. So, but I appreciate everybody being here. I just wanted to address that because obviously I want to make sure you guys are all notified when my show begins. Okay, when we come back, we'll switch gears just a bit. We'll get it a little bit lighter. I'll update the poll. Last call for you guys to answer whether you are team doorbell or team text. Let me show the picture once again. I just was cracking up about this. This is just one of those questions that I think bring out definite sides. So this guy wrote on Twitter, we as a society need to have a serious conversation about doorbells and how a text message is not an appropriate way to alert someone that you are outside their house.
That's not true.
And I don't know how you guys fall, but the poll is up. Are you team doorbell or are you team text? Which do you prefer to do? Or which do you prefer to have done to you? So I am team text. Give me a heads up. Because like Kim, I need a pickup. I need my bra to be put away. I need the laundry to hopefully be shoved in a closet somewhere. I want a heads up that you're coming. But I also do text and on the other side. So I think I would vote team text. You guys let me know. I'll give you the results when we come back after Kim's news. And then I also have a very cute doorbell story. It's not kind of with this, but it's very, very cute. Of a little kid and a dad and a doorbell. But first, some news.
Now, from around the world to up your street. The Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. And we are back to the top secret document fiasco. The White House counsel's office says President Biden is fully cooperating with the Justice Department's investigation into his handling of classified documents. White House counsel spokesman Ian Sams said the administration is following the DOJ's lead to ensure that there's a thorough review. His remarks come just hours after the FBI searched President Biden's home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. They found no classified materials there. Sam Bankman-Fried is talking himself into a potential hole. A federal judge amped up the FTX founder's bail considerations after seeing a text message he sent to another top executive. The judge said it threatened inappropriate contact with prospective witnesses. So stop talking, buddy. Fresno County's district attorney is now laying the blame squarely on Sacramento for the killing of a Central California police officer. Lisa Smitkamp said in a statement, Governor Gavin Newsom and state legislators who support policies that accelerate time credits for prisoners and close prisons altogether have blood on their hands. Yesterday, a felon who was sentenced to 5 years in prison in March of 2022 and was released just 5 months later, allegedly shot a Selma police officer several times. That officer died in the hospital. California, though, taking another step today to prevent crime. And Governor Gavin Newsom will reveal new gun control measures in the wake of at least 6 mass shootings so far this year, here in California, that is. He'll be joined by the Attorney General, a senator, and gun safety advocates. They'll try to advance what Newsom calls critical legislation, which could include tightening concealed carry laws. The state already has more than 100 gun laws on the books. The organizers of Burning Man are pretty upset. They are now working with environmental groups to try to stop a geothermal power plant from being developed in rural Nevada, just 15 miles from Black Rock, where the festival is held. So this is the suit alleging that the Bureau of Land Management has failed to properly assess the impacts to the land and water supply before approving the first phase of the project. The project from Ormat Technologies would be drilling 13 exploratory wells deep into the Earth's crust on the silt playas of Washoe County, Nevada, looking for superheated pockets of liquid that could then be used to create clean, renewable energy. Again, 15 miles from Black Rock, and Burning Man says, well, we don't want that in our neck of the woods. The Central Coast is kind of being packed in now with golf fans because it is the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. The first round tomorrow, 37 professionals taking part. The fun starts at 10:30 today, though. Started this morning with 3 celebrity events for charity. And that is where fans are seeing stars like Huey Lewis, actor Alfonso Ribeiro, Josh Duhamel, Ray Romano, along with radio personalities as well. So Pebble Beach Pro-Am getting underway. And one more for you. This is a story about, have you seen the expectation of the green comet? Here it comes. It's the day the bright green comet makes its closest approach to Earth. California playing a pretty big role. That's because the comet was just discovered last year by a new camera in San Diego County. NASA calling it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity since it was last seen in the Stone Age and unlikely to return for millions of years. After coming within 26 million miles, the comet will make its next closest approach of Mars February 10th. So this is the week where we're going to need...
We don't have a time that I have to be outside, or...
I don't think so. But it is this week, and apparently you can't see it with the naked eye. You do need a telescope, and you need to get to a point where there's less light pollution in order to see it as well. So yeah, the green comet, here she comes.
All right.
50,000 years is when it will be the next go around for the green comet. So
I love when they throw out 50,000 years. Like, any of us are like, I don't know if I'll be there. I don't know if humanity will survive that long, but
Who
let's
knows?
just check it out right now. There we go.
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. He, for more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, you know it's all about Steve Moskowitz. He's at 888 Tax Deal. He's also at MoskowitzLLP.com. Kim McAllister of the Nikki Medoro Show.
All right. Thank you, Kim. So I'm ending the poll. I'm ending the poll. Oh, shoot. Okay, so the poll was, is a doorbell or text the appropriate way to alert someone that you are at their home? And with 127 votes, Team Doorbell wins at 55%.
Really?
Team text was 44%. That surprises me.
Me
I
too.
feel like you guys are lying. I feel like you're not answering in the way in which it's really happening. So, I mean, I'm kind of conflicted. Somebody said, can I vote both? It matters the situation. Yes. David Odell, text on the way, doorbell when I'm there. How many people, and stars was the one that can I do both? Doorbell if no one responds to text. Text if we talked earlier and I'm on the way. I like that. I feel like so many people have Ring cameras. You don't even need to really hit the doorbell. I mean, because it's alerting you that someone's at your door with the jingle on your phone. Is there a way of turning that off? I bet there is, like on the notification. So I guess it wouldn't apply to everybody. But
I mean, if you know I'm coming and I roll up to your house, would you prefer that I text you and say I'm here, or that I just walk up to your doorbell and ding dong it? What do you want?
No, you better text my ass. Like, you better tell me that you're on the way. Yeah.
I
Text me.
would.
Yeah, exactly. No, I want to know. Let's see. Let's go down a couple of these. I also posted this on Twitter. A massive pile of doorbells and landline phones. Okay. Let's see. Phone call from Al Anonymous. Duh. I voted text and stars on the poll. Oh, JR says my results are skewed due to the age of my listeners. That's an excellent point. I'm not commenting on the age of my listeners, but I would say that the older you are, the less likely you are to text that you're there. I don't know. But then there are people that blow that whole assumption out of the water. So my father, who I adore and I love, he's a texter. He's a huge texter, but he's also a huge voice texter. And what drives me up the wall, and I love you, Dad, he is everybody wants to know the conversation I'm having on my phone, so I talk to everybody on speakerphone. Every phone call he makes in front of me, he does it on speakerphone. And I'm like, pick up the phone. Why are you talking? And then the other person on the other end goes, what? And then he's like, what? I'm like, if you pick up the phone, it's probably a little bit easier. So I don't know if that's an age thing. I don't know. But that drives me absolutely up the wall. Some of my Twitter responses, John tweeted at me, if I plan on coming into the house, then I'll definitely ring the doorbell. If I'm just picking someone up, then a text should suffice because I'm staying in the car. I'm just staying in the car.
I have to say that I would much prefer a text than someone honking. Like if someone's picking up a child for a carpool.
Oh, don't
the
honk.
age of the honk is over.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's like a high school boyfriend that doesn't want to meet dad, right? I mean,
it's text now and say, we're here.
Yeah. Momo Jones tweeted at me, either one, as long as you're not using the horn like my neighbor's idiot boyfriend. Exactly.
Right.
And then Susan wrote in, we don't have a doorbell, but we do have dogs. So a text is always preferred. So yeah, I think it might be a little bit of both. OCB says if you have a Nest doorbell, you answer yes to both. Oh, I didn't know. Does Nest text you when somebody's there? I have no idea. I don't have a smart house. I have a dumb house. Oh, hold on. What was that? Honking is the devil and inconsiderate to all neighbors. I absolutely agree. Yeah. All right. So very cute doorbell story, keeping it on the doorbell tip. So the doorbell for this Michigan dad just kept ringing and ringing, and cars kept coming up to his home because this guy's 6-year-old son went on a $1,000 spending spree on his dad's Grubhub account. So apparently the dad's just sitting there and the doorbell keeps ringing with food deliveries. 5 orders of jumbo shrimp, salad, shawarma, chicken pita sandwiches, chili cheese fries, ice cream, grape leaves, rice. He was quoted as saying this was something out of a Saturday Night Live skit. He's like, I was probably a 9.5 out of 10 anger when it was happening. The next day I was an 8, and now I'm at about a 3. I don't really find it funny yet, but I can laugh with people a bit about it. So apparently the guy let his son Mason, and hold on, I have a picture while I'm doing this story. Here they are. His son Mason, he let the kid use his phone to play a game for about a half an hour before bed. He never thought that the kid would click on the Grubhub app and order large amounts of food from one restaurant after another. The guy's like, he's sick, so it doesn't kind of sink in. It's not like if our 13-year-old did it, then it would sink into him. Try explaining this to a 6-year-old. We told him we took money out of his piggy bank to pay for the bag of food and this one and so on. We could tell he was upset, but we don't know if it's really sunk in. Apparently at one point when the dad was having a conversation with him, he's like, yeah. He's like, but did the pizza arrive yet? So he says, I was putting Mason to bed and saw a car pull up. It was a Slice of Heaven Cakes bakery that had a wedding this weekend. He was confused, and there was no way that he could stop all of the deliveries. He tried to call one restaurant, told him to get a hold of Grubhub, but apparently it does have a happy ending. Grubhub actually gave the dad a $1,000 gift card.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, because you don't want the businesses that brought the food to have to suffer the consequences because of that. That's really funny. And you have to take steps to order from Grubhub. It's like you click on what you want, you click on the payment. There's steps that you have to take.
Kids nowadays, they know that technology.
6-year-olds are smart. I was reading that story, and it said that the dad also got a fraud alert on his credit card.
One of them didn't go through. Yeah,
$450 for a pizza delivery order. They're like, yeah, that doesn't seem quite right.
No, it does not. I mean, it's funny, but it's not, because obviously that this happened. I just love that the kid was like totally aware of what he was doing. Obviously, if he was still waiting for that pizza, he was doing it, right? Yeah. But I will say this, and I don't think that DoorDash does it, but I think I've mentioned this before. If you're going to do like a food delivery for someone that's in the hospital or something like that, Grubhub lets you get kind of gift cards, electronic gift cards. You could just put money on and lets people. Yeah. So I've done that when our friend Brian had his baby. I was like, here's some money. My friend Sarah had her baby, because, people always want to spoil you with food. But after a while, you're like, I need a break. You know what I mean? Like, I need a break. Just give me Grubhub, because maybe I don't want to tell you that I'm going to get another tub of ice cream instead of, a real dinner with everything. Maybe I'm just in the mood for some crap food. Absolutely. Here's a kind of a good deal. How would you like to hang out with a celebrity in their own B&B for $42 a night? So I'm going to share
my celebrity.
All right. Okay. How about if it's this guy, Kim McAllister?
I mean, am I hanging with Mike Lindell or former President Trump? Then I'm.
No, you're hanging with Seth Rogen. I know the picture's really, really small there. So Seth Rogen. Oh no, you're not a Seth Rogen fan? No, he's funny. You don't have to smoke weed with him or anything.
I mean, I guess I could pick his brain about being a YouTuber, right? A podcaster,
an actor. Yeah. So Seth Rogen is offering fans a chance to explore his space.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of Joe Rogan, not Seth Rogen.
Oh, I was like, okay. Well, Seth Rogen also does stuff like that, but not extremist stuff and nonsense conspiracy stuff. No. So Seth Rogen, he's in, a bunch of movies. He also has his own company. He has his own pot company. And he's offering fans a chance to explore his space, his Airbnb, by renting out his Los Angeles creative getaway on Airbnb. It's only $42. Now, it's only available to rent for 3 one-night stays, February 15th, 16th, and 17th. The bookings can begin February 7th at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Right.
You can go to airbnb.com/houseplant, which is his cannabis company. It's called Houseplant. Now, apparently you can, use his pottery wheel. You can make pottery with him on his postings. Let me read what he wrote on his Airbnb. He says, "Hi, it's me, Seth. If you're reading this, you're considering booking a night at the Houseplant Inspired Retreat. What makes it houseplanty, you may be asking? Well, it's stocked with some of our favorite house goods, even a pre-release copy of our new vinyl box set volume 2. The mid-century styling and LA views also have a distinctly houseplant feel. And there's a fact that I'll be there to welcome you, which, given that I'm the founder, adds to the houseplantness. I am houseplant. So during your stay, you could throw pottery with me in the house studio. I'm a pretty good teacher. You could take in the sun to view the setting. You can listen to volume 2 of our vinyl box set. You can enjoy, this is also cool, a fully stocked fridge, by which I mean go ahead and destock it, eat it all. And again, only $42 a night. They'll be making a one-time donation because they're doing this in collaboration with Hilarity for Charity, which is a national nonprofit on a mission to care for families impacted by Alzheimer's disease. So a good cause for all, I would say. And, obviously it's good, juju. It's a good thing to do for charity. I think I might set my alarm. $42 a night for one night stay, and I get to hang out with Seth Rogen, who I find to be absolutely hilarious.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a totally good idea. So how many of you in the chat would do that? And you don't, again, yes, he has a cannabis company. You don't have to smoke weed if you don't want to, or eat it, or whatever the hell they offer. But I like the fact that he's donating some to charity, because sometimes philanthropy can go the other way. So remember, I was talking, Kim, about Mr. Beast. He was this YouTuber who's has raised tons of money, and he does it because he wants to be a kind of philanthropist. He gives away money, and he paid for 1,000 people to have this cataract surgery. Apparently it's like a 10-minute surgery. And they were blind. And so now they can see. It's like I was blind and I could see. And he was getting so much praise. Well, now, of course, because that's just the way it is, people are criticizing what he did, along with this doctor who have gone around the world and performed these surgeries. Some of the criticism, one Twitter user notes, quote, "The fact that it took charity for these people to get help highlights the problem." Another user said, "Paying for 1,000 blind people to have eye surgery is a nice thing to do. But using that act of generosity into content turns it into a tacky and tasteless act of charity porn." What do you think about that? I mean, on one hand, Mr. Beast, because he's done this philanthropic work, giving away money, he's made a name for himself, which brings him more money, which allows him to do more philanthropy. It's kind of a cycle. But should he not use his clout in this way?
If you're fundraising, you kind of have to do that. If you're footing the bill yourself, then you see all these. I was watching something on Facebook. Someone had posted a video about how they had helped a homeless person. They rolled up to this family, and the family was like 2 kids and parents, and they were sitting on the sidewalk. And the guy says, "Hey, what if I did something really nice for you? I'm going to pay for your hotel for the next 3 nights." And the mom starts crying. She's like, "I had no idea where we're going to sleep tonight, and this is the best thing you could have ever done for us," and whatever. And you come away with this feeling, 2 feelings. One, how nice that he did that for them. Like they just, he may have really helped them out so they could get on their feet. On the other hand, why did you have to put it on Facebook? Like, why do you need the recognition that you've
I hear
done
what you're
this?
saying.
So maybe if you do it and other people are seeing you do kindness, could that spread kindness and lead to other people doing it? Or are you just an attention whore who needs to be noticed for doing something nice? And if you're truly selfless, do you really need people to know about it, or can you just do it out of the kindness of your heart? I always like when I see donations to places where it says anonymous.
Because it makes it like you don't need the praise for it.
Someone's like, "I don't need you to say thank you to me. I don't need you to, call me out. I don't need the recognition. I'm doing this because I want to do it, and for no other reason, not so people recognize me, not so I have my name on the hospital or over the doorway or on this wing of a building. I'm just doing it because I want to help."
Mr. Beast responded to the criticism because the other people are saying, there's a failure in this country if we rely on people like Mr. Beast and rich people to get this done, when if it's just a 10-minute surgery, we should have a system in this country for people to be able to afford it or get it done if they can't afford it. And so Mr. Beast wrote, Twitter, talking about people on Twitter, rich people should help others with their money. Me, okay, I'll use my money to help people, and I promise to give away all my money before I die, every single penny. Twitter, Mr. Beast bad. Which is just, that's just kind of the way that social media can work sometimes. And Stars says, I disagree on the Mr. Beast hating, but that's Twitter. A lot of anonymous mean people or bots. Yeah, I agree. It's not the real world. I think most people would see what he's doing and understand that whether he's doing it for clout or not, these people did get the surgery for free. And he created a name for himself by doing these things. Mm-hmm. I would much rather see, to go back to one of your older stories, Kim, I would much rather see more Mr. Beasts than power slapping, right? Yeah. I would rather, see more of those than people, doing terrible things just to get views and clicks and stuff, right? Yeah. I'd rather see more philanthropy than trolling online. And if it makes you some money, okay. I mean, that's just the way the world works.
But don't you think that kind of our new way of living online, of posting on Facebook, of putting everything that happens in your life on, posting, taking a video, and if there aren't pics, it didn't happen type of thing.
Right.
That living that way, just, oversharing completely everything, leads to a lack of humbleness, because there's a different way of thinking. I think the old way was, I don't need the recognition. I don't, not everyone needs to know everything, but there's kind of been a switch in the way we live. Many people live, and in the whole thinking of everything, where everything gets shared. So I wonder if he's just a share it all kind of guy, or if he's really doing it for because he wants attention for being a do-gooder.
But even if he was doing it for attention, it doesn't negate the fact that the benefit's still there. Yeah. You see, and that's my point. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe it's an ego trip for him. Maybe he loves the fact that people see him in this way, and yeah, he's getting money. Mm-hmm. But the other end of that is there's still all these people that can see, or the X, Y, and Z has been done for the benefit of these people. I would rather have it be that way than I kick people when they're down and I make money off of that, and it's all me, and there's no benefit. And so I'm willing to say, all right, you might get the ego trip, you may get the adoration, you may not be selfless and not want the attention, but you know what? People got surgery that they needed. People got fed. People got housed. People got a new car because they didn't have one. That still happened. And we can't ignore the fact that happened as well. And so we don't live in a perfect world.
As you mentioned, there's also that kind of contagious feel-good thing that happens.
Right.
Where you see somebody doing something wonderful and lovely, it brings you joy and happiness, oh, that's so nice that happened, as opposed to the slap story. And then maybe you're inspired to go do something nice and lovely as well. So
let me ask you one quick question before we end the show. There's a bunch of videos. They'll do this. They'll go, I can give you $20. They go to a random stranger, whatever. I'll give you $20 or I'll double it and give it to somebody else. What do you say?
Oh, double it and give it to somebody else.
Okay, so my daughter and I were talking about this yesterday. She's like, if someone came up to me, because it'll get big, people are like $1,000, or I double it and give it to somebody else, and it just keeps. It's kind of like that pay it forward type of thing. And we're like, I don't know if I'd be able to turn down $1,000. And I'm just but it's that same kind of thing. It's like, do you want to do something well for somebody else, or are you going to just try to get paid yourself? Right?
Somebody really needs that money. Somebody,
right? Well, maybe that's you.
If it was me, I would maybe say yes. But you always think there's somebody worse off than you are, no matter how dire your position is.
Yeah,
I would have to hope that maybe it would go to the right person. The mom who didn't know how she was going to, afford to buy milk for her baby, or diapers for her baby, or feed her family, or whatever. That's the person I want it to go to.
Yeah,
and who doesn't have enough money to put gas in the tank to get to work tomorrow.
But do you think that you're ever going to be that person? I mean, the person that finally says, yes, I need it. Do you ever think that people will look at you and be like, there's someone worse off than you? You know, I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could think that about anyone, really.
Exactly. So then might as well just take the money, some people say. No one's going to believe it's me anyway. I'm not saying that. I don't know what I would do if somebody actually offered me that much money.
Are you taking the money? What are you doing?
I don't think so. I mean, look, I'll be honest. I'm always honest. If somebody says $1 million, take it or I double it, I'm taking it. Yeah. But I think that if it was a lesser amount, I probably would. I don't know. I'd love to be in that situation. But then if I was on camera, would that also influence my response? Like if there's a camera in your face and the world is watching, are you more altruistic and just kind of, all right, take it away?
If you were the person that said, you know, they offered you, say, 20 grand, that it's gotten up to this point or something, or 5,000 or whatever it is. And you said, you know what? I would normally say let it roll, but honestly, I didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage this month. I lost my job. I didn't know how I was going to afford it. It's like fortuitous. It came at the perfect moment for me because I was screwed. And you just saved my rear end. So thank you very much. I'll hand out for that money.
I'm taking that speech, Kim, the next time someone offers me free money. All right. Speaking of thanking people, let's do a thank you again to people that donated to our super chat. Andreas, you've been mentioned as just so generous. And we're talking about people who do it. And we appreciate you. $20 from Andreas. We love you. Mike also, thank you so much for another $10. And RJ started off the show with $20 and a good afternoon.
Hey, RJ.
We love all of you. We thank you so much again.
Yeah.
We were talking about the algorithm and everything. Click the thumbs up every single time the show is on, and that will probably help bring it up to your feed. I actually, during Kim, your news, I went on YouTube, and for me, it's front and center on my homepage on YouTube. So kind of mess with it. Hit the bell that reminds you. Donate to our Patreon. It keeps the show going. You can find the link at thenikkimedoros.com. Also, our shows are there.
For anyone that does that, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And a PayPal donations, if that's the way you like to donate to the show, thenikkimedoros@gmail.com. And I forgot to mention, we do have new merchandise. We have hoodies. We have AirPods. I'll pull out some pictures. Somebody just sent me a picture and I forgot to download it. They got their AirPods white. You can get them for the Pro or the regular. Go to thenikkimedoрошop.com. And that's a great way to support the show as well. I love all of you. We will talk again tomorrow. And take it away, Jacob.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.